I checked my baby monitor, and someone was standing behind a crib. And the worst part, they were staring directly at the camera. That is the moment everything in my life split into a before and an after. My name is Daniel. I'm a calm guy. Logical. Not easily shaken. I work long hours. I don't believe in ghosts. And until a few weeks ago, I thought baby monitors were just extra peace of mind. Now I can't even look at one without my stomach tightening. That night started like any other. My wife was already asleep beside me, breathing softly. The house was silent. A silent almost too silent. It had that stillness only families with newborns understand, the kind where every quiet moment feels precious. I grabbed my phone out of habit. I wasn't worried. My daughter, Emily, was finally sleeping through most of the night. I just wanted to take one last peek to make sure she was okay before I closed my eyes. I opened the baby monitor app. The feed loaded. Gray, grainy, normal. And then my blood pressure dropped so fast I felt dizzy. Behind the crib stood a tall figure, motionless, perfectly centered in the frame, not blurred, not distorted, not a shadow. A person, that head tilted slightly forward, as if studying Emily, like they were memorizing her. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I just stared at that screen, terrified to move. Terrified that if I blinked even for a second, the figure would be gone, or worse, closer. Then something else hit me. If someone was in my house, why didn't I hear anything? My thumb trembled over the phone. I zoomed in, and that was the first moment I felt real. Animal fear, pure instinct. Primal and electric because the figure didn't pixelate like a normal image. It sharpened. Like the camera wanted me to see it clearly. The face remained in shadow. But the posture, the shape, it looked wrong. Too tall, too still, too intentional. I whispered, "What the hell?" My wife shifted beside me. I froze, terrified of making noise. The figure didn't move. I swallowed hard, forcing air into my lungs. Emily. I breathed, more to myself than anything. My God. If you're watching this right now, don't forget to subscribe to the channel because what I'm about to tell you is real. And I honestly don't know how much longer this thing has been watching us. And watching her, the moment I finally found the courage to stand up and go to Emily's room. Everything got worse. Much, much worse. I don't remember getting out of bed. I don't remember crossing the hallway. All I remember is the feeling this tight, burning pressure spreading across my chest as I pushed open Emily's door. The room was dimly lit by her nightlight, casting a warm amber glow across the walls. Her white curtains fluttered slightly from the air vent. The mobile above her crib rotated slowly, creaking in that soft, rhythmic way that always made her smile. Everything looked normal. Empty. Too empty. I stepped inside cautiously, as if the shadows themselves might snap at my ankles. My eyes darted toward the spot where I had just seen the figure standing. Nothing. Just the crib. Just Emily sleeping peacefully. But when I lifted my phone again, the baby monitor feed showed something entirely different. The figure was still there. Right behind the crib, right in front of my eyes, except I couldn't see it in the room. It was only visible through the screen. My throat tightened. I turned my head from the real room to the phone. To the real room again. The difference made my skin crawl. On the app, the figure's shoulders were rising and falling slowly, as if breathing. The head was still tilted down, studying my daughter like she was something fragile, or something claimed. A cold breeze brushed my arm. Ispun around, nothing. But the monitor showed the figure leaning just a little closer. To me now. I stumbled back so fast I almost tripped. "No," I muttered. "No, no, no. This isn't possible." My voice echoed softly in the room, too loud in the suffocating silence. For a moment, I considered grabbing Emily and running, but I couldn't move. Something inside me, fear, disbelief, shock-rooted my feet to the floor. Then, the screen glitched. A burst of static crackled through the audio feed, and that's when I heard it. Breathing. Slow, deep, right behind Emily's crib. But the room was empty, at least. Empty to my eyes. My fingers shook violently. I whispered into the silence. "Who's there?" Silence. Then the breathing stopped. Completely. Abruptly. A single notification blinked on the screen. Motion detected. Behind child. My stomach twisted. If you're still listening, hit that subscribe button so more people hear this. I don't want anyone else to go through what I did that night. Because the moment I reached for Emily, something moved. Not in the room. In the monitor. The moment I reached toward Emily's crib, the monitor feed froze. Not like a technical glitch, but like the figure had decided to stop the image itself. The screen locked on a single frame. The figure's head. Slowly turning toward me. My heart slammed against my ribs. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. It wasn't looking at Emily anymore. It was staring at me. I swallowed hard and tried to force my voice out. Stay away from my daughter. The room stayed silent, but the monitor didn't. The frozen image suddenly flickered once, twice, and then the figure moved. Not fluidly, not naturally. It shifted in a way that felt disjointed, like each movement was a separate frame of a nightmare being stitched together. It stepped out from behind the crib in the video. While in the real room, nothing moved but he felt Italiano, a weight in the air. A presence pressing on my skin, a coldness settling over my spine. My legs trembled, my breath came in short bursts. I looked at the real space behind the crib empty, tragically, impossibly empty. But on the monitor, the figure was now standing beside me, a few inches away. Its height, towering, its posture, rigid, its face, hidden in a darkness that didn't match the lighting of the room. Instinctively, I staggered back until my shoulders hit the wall. The audio feed cracked, a low hum seeped through the speaker, vibrating like a distant growl. Then, beneath it, a whisper only the monitor could hear. "He sees." My blood turned to ice. I didn't know if it meant me, or if it meant it was seeing through me. I turned the phone toward my chest, unable to look for a few seconds. My mind raced fight, freeze, fleeba. None of those seemed possible. When I finally lifted the phone again, the figure was closer in the feed. Much closer. So close that its shadow swallowed half the screen. My voice cracked. "What do you want?" The monitor jolted violently, as if something slammed into it from the inside. Emily stirred in her sleep. Her tiny hand twitched. A small whimper escaped her lips that broke I lunged forward, ready to grab her and run, but the moment my fingers touched the crib railing, the figure's hand appeared on the monitor, not reaching for Emily. Reaching for me. If you're here now, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what happened next is the moment I realized this thing was trapped in the camera. It was in the house. The hand on the monitor didn't look human. It was long, too long, with fingers that bent at angles no joint should allow. They pressed against the inside of the screen as if the monitor were a window, not a camera feed. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to move, but my body refused to obey. I could only watch. The figure's fingertips dragged down the inside of the video feed, leaving behind faint, static-like streaks. The audio crackled with a deep, vibrating pulse that felt like it was coming from inside my bones. Emily whimpered again. That sound jolted something awake inside me, a desperate, parental survival instinct. I reached into the crib, scooping her up with trembling arms. Her little body was warm, but the air around us felt colder, like something was pulling the heat out of the room. I backed toward the door, but the monitor did something impossible. The figure stepped forward. Not in the room. In the feed, but with that step. The room itself responded. The night light flickered, The mobile stopped spinning, and the temperature dropped drastically, as if the air was being swallowed. I felt a pressure behind me, like someone towering over my shoulder. I turned quickly. Nothing, but the monitor showed the figure standing exactly there. Right behind me, tall enough that its shadow covered my entire back. My throat tightened. I hugged Emily closer. "Leave us alone," I whispered. The monitor shook violently. The figure's head twitched, jerking in sharp angles, left, right, down, like it was inspecting me from all directions in a single moment. Then it leaned in. Its face still hidden, its breathing now audible, but only in the feed. A faint whisper filled the audio channel. She opened the door. I felt my knees weaken. She. Who was she? My wife? My daughter? Someone else? Before I could process it, the power abruptly snapped in the house. Everything went black. Only the monitor remained on, glowing like a lone eye in the darkness. Its image distorted, lines bending, colors inverting, until the figure filled the entire screen, too close to be real. Then the monitor cut to static, and for the first time that night, I heard footsteps behind me, real ones. Slow. Heavy. Intentional. If you're still with me, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what comes next, because this is where everything in my house, in my life, spiraled into something far darker. The footsteps behind me didn't sound like a person moving across the floor. They were too slow, too heavy, too measured. Each step felt deliberate, like whatever was approaching was savoring every second of closing the distance between us. I held Emily tight against my chest. Her tiny hands clung to my shirt, sensing the terror radiating through my body. My eyes were adjusting to the darkness, but the room remained a muddy silhouette of shapes. I forced myself to turn around inch by inch, expecting to see something towering over me. Nothing. Just shadows. But the footsteps continued. Only now, they were coming from directly behind my left ear. The sound was impossibly close, but when I turned sharply again, nothing. My pulse pounded in my skull. "Please, just leave us alone," I whispered, voice breaking. Emily whimpered, burying her face into my chest. I reached for the hallway light switch with a shaking hand. My fingers brushed the plastic, and the light snapped on before I touched it. Too fast. Too sudden. Like something else turned it on for me. The hallway was empty. But the temperature, God, the temperature dropped again, sharper than before. So cold it bit at my skin. I took a step backward, gripping the doorway for balance. That's when the monitor, still glowing faintly in the blackout of the nursery, came back to life. No motion, no figure. Just Emily's crib. I should have felt relief. I should have collapsed with gratitude. But something was wrong. Wrong. The camera angle had changed. The monitor was showing the room from a higher vantage point, as if someone tall was holding it. My stomach twisted. I hadn't moved the camera. My wife hadn't touched it. No one had touched it. The figure had been standing right there, exactly where the camera now was. My vision blurred from panic. I stumbled into the hallway, cradling Emily, trying desperately to steady my breathing. Then the static returned, loud, violent, ears. The monitor displayed a single line of text. "She's not yours." My knees nearly buckled. "Who are you talking about?" I shouted, every word cracking. "My daughter. My wife." Who? The static warped again. The message changed. She let me in. A chill swept through me, so sharp it felt like ice water in my veins. Emily suddenly turned her head toward the end of the hallway and pointed with her tiny hand. Her voice was barely a whisper, trembling. "Daddy, he's right there." And I swear, for the first time that night, I saw something move. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, because the moment I realized who had opened the door, it changed everything. Emily's tiny finger pointed straight into the darkness at the end of the hallway. My blood turned to ice. Emily, "What do you see?" I whispered. She tucked her face against my shoulder, trembling. "Daddy, he's watching us." I forced myself to stare into the darkness, my vision blurred from fear, my breath shallow and uneven. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then the shadows shifted, not like a person stepping forward, more like the darkness itself peeling away from the wall. A shape emerged, long, thin, towering, its limbs bending in ways no human body could. Its presence warped the air around it, distorting the hallway like heat waves. Except everything was freezing cold. I staggered backward. My instinct was to run, but my legs could barely carry my weight. The figure didn't walk. It tilted, drifting toward us with silent, gliding movements, as if gravity didn't apply. "Do Italiano?" I clutched Emily tighter. Her heartbeat hammered against mine. Then, from behind me, a soft gasp, a spoon around. My wife stood at the far end of the hallway, hair face pale, eyes wide, breath trembling like she'd been crying for hours. "Daniel," she whispered. "I'm sorry." My stomach dropped. "What? What do you mean?" Tears streaked down her cheeks. "I thought it was a dream. I thought I imagined it that night." She shook her head. I didn't know what it was. It stood by the bed, whispered to me, begged to see the baby. It said it needed her. It promised it would go away if I just stopped resisting. She covered her mouth, choking on a sob. "I didn't open the front door, Daniel. I opened its door, the one only I could see." The figure was closer now, so close its shadow stretched across the walls like a living stain. Swallowing the light, it whispered through the air, its voice layering over itself like multiple tones speaking at once. She welcomed me. My wife collapsed to her knees. I didn't know it would follow her. I didn't know it would want more. I backed away, holding Emily as tightly as I could. My voice cracked as I screamed, "Stay away from her!" The figure paused. Then, with a sudden jolt of motion, the monitor in my hand flashed. A final message appeared. "I already am." The hallway lights burst, glass shattering, sparks flying, plunging us into darkness. Emily screamed. My wife, Sobith, and the last thing I felt was a cold hand brushing the back of my neck. Not through the monitor. In the real world, if you made it to this moment, subscribe to the channel so more people hear this. Because whatever I let into my house that night, it never left.